in
By the
quarantine,
way,
man. If
has
my
anyone else ever had
we're
that
live.
fucking?
We're live, by the way. Welcome to Big Uglies.
What's that?
Uh Go ahead. You were saying, has anyone else what noticed?
Well, you know those fucking. Those, what are those? Has anyone ever had that microphone that Bob Barker had in Price is Right? That
The
skinny
thin
shit.
pencil microphone?
Yeah. Has anybody
No.
rocked that since then?
Do you know why no one's used that little thing? Because that
Does it not really
microphone's
work?
no, it's one of a kind. It was modeled after his penis, which was actually transplanted. It was a dog's penis. Um, and that's why he was so pro spaying and neutering, because he was like, if without these dog penis transplants, I would not be able to sleep with all these girls that show you the Showcase Showdown.
He was definitely fucking them Price
He
is Right
he
chicks.
probably fucked all of them. You know,
Oh,
there's a whole like Me Too of the Bob Barker story that we'll never get.
it's you know, I never thought that Happy Gilmore shit was funny just because Bob Barker was punching and shit. I wanted to see Bob Barker say a bunch of filthy shit. Like,
Yeah.
I wish it was, instead of like saying bitch.
You know, well, you're probably watching that movie, when you were a kid or whatever, seeing that for
Even
the
now,
first
though.
time and being like, in all reality, this guy would probably be saying all kinds of dirty shit to
Yeah, right?
like a golfer, like, let's get some pussy after this. I'm Bob
Like,
Barker. That's the reality of those tours. So like one of the guys I'd love to have on this podcast at some point is my buddy Michael Pierce, who plays for the Ravens, and I met him doing one of those
name
sort of like
draw.
one of those. Yeah, I know a nose tackle and I know a backup offensive guard for the Giants. Those are and I know you who played collegiately and in the CFL.
I got cut from every single professional team I was ever on.
Yeah,
Every league, NFL, UFL, CFL.
and I see you're rocking the Temple's Owl beanie.
No, that's FAU.
Oh, is that FAU? Oh, okay, yeah, it is FAU. There
Oh,
you go.
no, come on, man.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So, but one of the people I'd love to have on is Michael Pierce, and Michael and I met at a like a celebrity golf like charity thing, and I can just tell you, like, the rich white season ticket holders that pay money to play golf with professional football players are as slave owner racist as you imagine. Like, they were literally like, I was hanging out with Michael because
even the
he was
liberal dudes, even
yeah.
the West Coast liberals are
I
like
was
that.
hanging out with a lineman because he could eat as many pit beef sandwiches as me, so we were just partying down on food at all the different food stops. And we would literally like pull the cart up. By the way, I don't know how he and I both fit in a golf cart
We didn't.
together. We did, and Kamale Correa was with us too. So the
First
three
of
of
all,
us
her
in a
name is
golf
Kamala
cart.
Harris.
The three of us were in a golf cart in Baltimore, and we would pull up behind like other guys playing holes, and we weren't even golfing. And these other guys would be playing holes, and they just walk up to Michael and start grabbing him and be like, "This dude feels like a fucking championship. Touch him, feel him up." It's just like
They had
white
that.
season
They had
ticket
that
holder.
rednecking sort of vibe in Baltimore.
Yes, where they were like appraising livestock, and I was like, "Dude, does this happen?" He's like, "Every season ticket holder event you go to is like this, where they're just like."
And they're really like holding them like stock. I remember
They're
trying
really
to tell people.
they're really like touching these guys and hugging them and like grabbing on them, and they're like, "Look." He literally, one white dude turned to the other white dude and was like, "Look at him. Look how thick
tryout,
he is."
every tryout or even pro day was like that. I know just my teammates that went to the combine and shit like that. All of them said it was very auctiony.
Yes,
Like,
I'm sure
the fact
it
that you take your shirt off, you spread out, they measure you from here to here, they measure you from here to here, then they're like, "Huh, that's good size." You're in nothing but your Under Armour fucking girdle.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "Oh, nope, his arms are too short, or he's to the we could get 5 years out of this." And like, these are all their notes that they write down. It's really...
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that about 60 years ago, the Wonderlic was actually the test they used to measure the length of their dick bones. I don't know if you know that.
No, that was the Wonder Dick.
Yeah, they're just like, "Look at that dick bone on that boy."
That was
And they were all boys. The
everybody was,
29-year-old Chris Winkie was a boy for a day.
and then they all then those sort of folk passed down that to the next generation, and they bought the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why we've always talked about doing a football podcast is because I feel like you and I talk about sports in general, but mostly football in a way that nobody else really talks about it. Like we're sort of willing to have conversations about professional sports that I feel like are obviously out there that other people just don't touch. And why not two white guys just jumping into the mud and talking about shit that could absolutely get us in trouble?
Let's force our opinions on you. You know you don't want to hear it. It's ugly though. You want to hear about two big uglies talking about the big uglies, the big uncomfortable things that the other people don't even want to even mention.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's a triple entendre. We're both big uglies. The NFL linemen are also referred to as big uglies, and then the topics that we're going to cover on this show are the big uglies of football that nobody wants to talk about.
Like Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. There,
we're going to go right there. First of all, as a Jets fan, I just want to point out all of it, as that is my defense against your attack on Carson Wentz. Well, Exhibit A, the Jets.
Yeah. So I'm a Jet fan, but like not in the way that most Jet fans would be like, dude, why can't we get it together? Like, I have accepted the fact that we suck. I have accepted the fact that we're not, like, I understand how we're run. I get it. Like, people don't view the team like I view the team. However, week 13 was the first time the entire NFL season that I bet on the Jets. And
oh, really?
I made it. It was like, this is our week. If we're going to win, it's going to be in week 13. We're not going to go 0-16. We're going to win one within the 3-week range of between 13 and 16. I was like, it's going to be against the Raiders. And I bet on it. When there was 4 minutes left in the game and we scored a touchdown to take the lead.
You were like, it's happening?
I was like, oh my God, this is it. I was like, this is it. Then I remembered we're the Jets. Dude, it was almost as if Greg Williams drew up a play and then he asked and was like, all right, I got a play drawn up. Listen, do you want the game to end? Do we really want to win this, or you guys want to? Are we tanking this? And
yeah, we're drafting. We're drafting like, Trevor Lawrence, right? So we don't want us to win this.
It was like, all right, fuck it. I'll blitz the safety. It was like zero blitz. It was cover zero. He just had the safety.
He's like, listen, I know it's 5 wide, but strap the fuck in. We're about to go zero. We're about to go empty back.
Hey, hit him in the head. Hey.
Look, man. Yeah, he's like, they don't call me fucking Bounty Greg for nothing. I don't cover. We don't cover. We kill.
Hey, you kill the head, the body dies. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I love that Greg Williams got banned for coaching football the way it's been coached for 100 years.
My entire life.
Yes.
My entire life is how Coach Greg Williams.
I remember
about football.
I remember my first day of football practice. I was 11 years old, and the coach was like, I went out for a pass, and he's like, "Man, you flinched. Don't be a faggot about it." Okay, I'm 11 years old in Pee-wees. They're trying to figure out what position to play me at because I'm a giant.
Tell them.
And they were like, "Don't be a faggot about it."
Near Philadelphia.
Yeah, I grew up in Philadelphia, so they were like. I was like, and my dad's like, don't have him running routes. He's white. Don't fucking fill him with false hope that he's going to be some kind of skill position player. Let him play nose tackle and call it a day.
Now, here at the Big Uglies, we make no qualms about it. We do appreciate a stellar white guy skilled player.
Okay,
goes without saying.
Occasional McCaffrey every decade. Is that what we're talking about?
It goes without saying. We love these guys. I think you know that.
Yeah.
However, I think this needs to be stated too: is that we don't like most white guys that are out there. In fact, we prefer athletes from struggle, athletes from that are rooted.
Well,
in,
you're jumping ahead. We're talking about
adversity.
We're talking about the problems with franchises.
Well, this is going to tie into. I'm going to say the players that we like are also happen to be those sort of players that could change an entire franchise.
Yes.
And your team doesn't like to do that. My team, the Jets, doesn't like to do that. We try to get these like nice. What happened when we got somebody who challenged things and talked shit and all that? We sent him to Seattle. Jamal Adams, remember that guy? He's like once in a decade
Jamal
player.
Adams, yes, not a once in a decade. Jamal Adams is a Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame talent. Like the kind of player in a position where he changes the way NFL defense is done. That's how good Jamal Adams is.
We like authentic. If a player shoots his mouth off, like me and Josh don't care.
No,
we like that shit.
I want players that have swagger.
We got with that raw emotion shit, swag. We like that shit. Those by the book fucking whatever. That's why your team sucks.
Yes.
That's why they suck.
And here we are.
That's why the Jets suck.
And here we are at the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles have had
the only
this
thing
problem.
I'll say is this about that before we go to the Eagles on that Greg Williams thing with the no safety and like who blitzes or I would say that I've never seen that in my life. But you can look this up. Tuesday night, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, FAU, First Middle Tennessee on ESPN. We were chasing a Hail Mary. We had the game won. Our defensive coordinator literally drew up a blitzing linebacker, and we had dudes like chasing a Hail Mary like they didn't know it was coming or something. My jaw was like on the floor. Like my whole offense couldn't believe it. We were a top 25 offense. Our defense was like 1/16. Like it was abysmal. I couldn't believe it. So when I saw the Jets do it, I was like, of course.
It's also the most Greg Williams play you could imagine, right? Like Greg Williams, like, listen, we could play quarters, but fuck that. All right. I want somebody's dick in my box at the end of the game.
I tell you what. If I can bring you Derek Carr's head, I'm gonna bring you his head.
It's exactly how he's going to play. And here's the thing. And here's the thing. You want to fix a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, you need coaches like Greg Williams. You need somebody who's a little bit of a killer in there as your head coach because they went from a pussy to a schemer to a bigger pussy. That was their coaching flaw. And they've had the Philadelphia Eagles, and listen, I'm not an equal opportunity guy of like there needs to be this many black coaches and this many black GMs or else the league isn't fair. It should definitely be based on meritocracy. But I will tell you that it's getting to a point where pussy white coaches aren't going to be able to win in this league, especially when they're accompanied with pussy white general managers like Howie Roseman, because they're going to keep drafting the black guys they feel safe with and not the black guys that can win football games.
And we're tired of these fucking shows, establishments, all this praising some sort of thing like it's the first black coach in this and the first when they haven't advocated for it for years. And me and Josh advocate for it. If this is 90% of the league has these players, familiar faces that are come in and out of the league, 90% of them are African American.
Yes.
The fact that you don't have that many assistant coaches that are that, the fact that you don't have that many director of personnel or operations or like that, like the people they see every day shouldn't be waspy, out of touch, rich country club people that come up to touch them.
Right.
Like they shouldn't teams. And at the end of the day, the Jets are not going to be good until they have Woody Johnson sell the team. When he's hanging out with Trump and being the ambassador to whatever, to England or something, like Trump made the New York Jets owner, like the ambassador of some shit. Bro, What do you own? Johnson and Johnson? Like the company runs itself at this point, bro.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like you're
Yeah,
on
that's
the
what
team for fun.
that's what I
And your
used to
kids-
say about. That's why I used to say when we'd see cotton commercials when we were kids, I'd be like, "Why you still got to advertise this? Is anybody
Yeah.
not buying cotton?"
cotton swabs, just make
Yeah.
it. Put it out. Like,
Yeah, there are some products that don't need to be advertised. Toilet paper.
So I just don't know why they don't advocate for this. So they're like, oh, Mike Tomlin's really doing a good job. They should. How come there's not enough the Mike Tomlins? And like you don't give anybody a chance. You had to come up with a rule for that. You had to come up with a rule just to like interview some black dudes and be like, oh, I wonder who can relate to these young black kids coming out of school that are.
And here's a
How
good
about
example:
more
is like
older black guys that have a bunch of money that have been there before and are really smart about football. Maybe they're into coaching. Like,
well, even when you look at the
them
guy
under their wing, yeah.
Even when you look at the coaches, the black coaches that broke through the league in the beginning, and the guys like that,
they're from the same coaching tree of Dungy.
Well, yes, they're all Tony Dungy's, or they're Lovie Smiths, or they're Romeo Crennels, and quite frankly, they're fucking Uncle Toms. These are black guys who learned how to coach in white organizations. All right, and they sort of passed the test.
I'm not going to go there and say that they're Uncle Toms in the sense that they looked out for other black dudes. They gave other black guys, those opportunities and stuff. I'll say that they learned how to navigate within these parameters.
But those aren't the guys that are going to reach today's players. The guys that are going to reach today's players are fiery dudes who are not that far removed from the game. Guys like Brian Flores. Look what Brian Flores is doing with the Miami Dolphins because he's a fiery, hot coach, and he can get the attention of these young, gifted players.
Yeah, and what he says resonates to him. Like, do your fucking job.
Yes,
we'll draw up a game plan, but do your fucking job and trust me. These words. Who are you going to trust? Like, I know Belichick is great in all this, but who would you rather trust? Are you saying I don't have your best interest? Listen, I'm not that far removed from the game.
Right.
There's what's his name? The offensive coordinator in Kansas City. They're like, oh, look at Andy Reid's resurgence. If that guy is not the offensive coordinator, do they still have this sort of success? Maybe.
Well, he was the running backs coach when Doug Peterson got the Eagles job. I mean, Eric Bieniemy, and this is the thing that we're not understanding is like, who are the real innovative minds behind these championship teams, right? Andy Reid had so much talent with the Philadelphia Eagles for all those years and could never win the big games, right? And then goes to Kansas City, brings all of his old coaching staff with him, Doug Peterson, all these other people. Who's the new guy in the room? It's Eric Bieniemy, who played for a lot of dynamic offenses, who played the other guy who's a really big name. And so I named this episode NFL Blackout. One of the things I think we need to talk about is the fact that, number one, from a social optics perspective, I would safely bet that 90% of the head coaching vacancies this year will be filled by black coaches. The sad part of that is they are probably coaches that should have been coaches a long fucking time ago.
Yeah,
and they're going to be guys like Eric Bieniemy, and they're going to be guys like Todd Bowles, who probably never should have lost his job in the first place.
Denny, I'm telling you, man, if Bieniemy gets a Jets job or one of those things, I would be so happy. If that dude was a Jets coach, I would actually be like, oh, we got a chance to we could really do something. Because
another fiery young black coach in the league that should get a couple looks, who might be a coordinator job away from getting a job, is DeMeco Ryans, who was playing just 5 years ago. And look at what he's done with Fred Warner in San Francisco. Fred Warner wasn't a high draft pick, wasn't a guy that was supposed to be, he wasn't Micah Parsons coming out of college. And Fred Warner's the best inside linebacker in the NFL right now because he's coached by a guy who was also slept on in the draft.
He's a big guy. He's not a little guy, though.
Yeah. But DeMeco Ryans was a guy that was slept on in the draft and turned out to be an all-pro player, a phenomenal player. And
and we want to also express, it's like what you said, these guys should have got jobs a long time ago. And
Eric Bieniemy should have got a job last year.
Here's where the equality comes in, too. We can easily judge a black coach on the same scale and performance that we would a white coach. The problem is the NFL doesn't, and right now they're in a climate where they're probably afraid to fire a black coach that isn't performing well,
Right.
i.e., Chargers.
Well,
The Chargers
yes, that's a
don't
good
want-
example.
The Chargers don't want to fire the coach in the middle of a lot of racial protests and all sorts. It would just be a bad look in LA. So
Right.
maybe hang on to him for another season. And but I think that's hurting your team. If they looked at them from real equal standpoints, they'd be like, replace him with another black coach.
Well, a good example is Marvin Lewis got
but I'm saying-
167 years of bad seasons in Cincinnati before they finally moved on from him.
If they replaced
know,
Lynn with another black coach, it would be fantastic.
Right.
Because then you're saying, we don't give a fuck. We want the best guy for the job. And I think the Chargers could set an example, not going safe in the PR sort of thing, like, oh, let's not fire him this year. I think they should let's fire him and maybe go after Bieniemy, or maybe go after what's his name, who's the other guy.
Who's the other? Did you say who's the other one?
Who's the other guy in San Fran that we just talked about?
Oh, Robert Saleh,
dude,
the defensive coordinator. Who's done so much with that Niners defense.
The interview for that job.
Yeah. Yeah, and Robert Saleh is another one of these young coaches that I think has the right attitude. And that's the problem, is a lot of these NFL guys, look at what the Raiders have done bringing back a guy like John Gruden. And how many pundits were like, the game's passed him by. The game, he doesn't have an opportunity to do this. And you know what's funny is,
who told you, man? I told you the first year, man. When they're in Vegas, man, watch out, man.
Yeah. Well, but here's the other thing that they did. Mike Mayock, for a decade, has been on NFL Network saying, listen, if you just draft really strong, productive black kids from the SEC, you'll probably win a lot of fucking football games. And what did Mike Mayock do in his first couple seasons as the general manager of the Raiders? SEC.
And that's not a racist thing to say, draft a bunch of black guys.
It's the highest level of competition in college football.
Now, are there white guys that compete in the ACC, SEC, Big Ten? Yes. But if they don't produce in those environments, a guy like Mayock won't take them. And it's not racist to say, oh, he's taking a bunch of black guys and it works out for him. And it's also not racist. This is what it looks like. Mike Mayock also got Hunter Renfrow.
Yes.
Hunter Renfrow,
who was a specialist.
White guys who produces in those environments.
Right.
Which means it's like the Moneyball thing. If he's producing here and he could get on base, he catches slot passes in one of the most competitive leagues. Clemson has been in the national championship spotlight for the last 7 seasons. Yeah, let's roll the dice on this white guy in the slot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not fucking brain surgery out there. They're not doing rocket science. It's not crazy shit. They're not trying to fucking outsmart in analytics shit. They're going, he's big, fast, strong. Where did he play? The SEC? Draft him.
Well, this is the problem. And this is the problem I have with, if we could go through the Eagles. We'll use the Eagles as an example when we talk about drafting and valuing players and being afraid of players with a little too much swagger or a little too much star power in college. Look at the Eagles draft, right? What did Howie Roseman say when they took Jalen Hurts? Which, by the way, I love Jalen Hurts coming out of college. I think he might go on to have a better career than Tua. And I
like the kid too, and I also think that
I think he's a winner. I think he's won everywhere he's gone. I think he's a good teammate. But how the fuck does Howie Roseman say we want to be a quarterback factory, and you take Jalen Hurts in the second round when your quarterback's been getting knocked on his ass for the last 5 seasons, right? And by the way, if you were going to be a quarterback factory, then why didn't you have the balls to take, I don't know, Heisman Trophy 2-time nominee and one-time winner, I believe, fucking Lamar Jackson, when you could have drafted him with the 32nd overall pick in 2017. If you wanted to be a quarterback factory, why didn't you take the blacker kid with more talent and go that route, right? So you trade out, you let
the blacker kid. Jesus.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is if you
say
look,
the better athlete, they're both black kids.
yes, but I'm saying, but one of them's darker, and one of them is a flashier, swaggier player. Listen, man, don't argue with me. Don't tell me that you don't know the difference between Willie Beeman and Cordell Stewart.
Oh, you mean black American, black as a culture, blacker,
yes,
more swag.
Yes, as a culture, black as a culture. The Philadelphia Eagles front office, going all the way back to Andy Reid, has been terrified of culturally dark players. All right? They stay. Look, DK Metcalf, passing on DK Metcalf to take JJ Arcega-Whiteside is.
I don't even, honestly, I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, no, of course you don't, because he's not been dressing. He was a second-round wide receiver they took last year who has caught maybe 5 passes in his NFL career and hasn't even been dressing for the last 5 games. So it's just there are constant examples of this throughout the history of Howie Roseman's drafts. They took Andre Dillard, who's been injured this year and couldn't even get on the field last year with the exception of injury, over Titus Howard, who went to West Alabama, right? Big ass, strong ass, thick ass, mean motherfucker. And look what he's doing in Houston.
Look how he's doing.
Look how he's doing in Houston. So you can go back through all the time. Corey Simon pick, the Michael Kendricks pick, and Michael Kendricks turned out to be a pretty productive player.
I will say that about this though. Your defensive line has 2 players that have been there for years.
Yes,
you guys
Fletcher Cox.
like getting players and locking them in and being like, these are our guys. This is Philly. We do that. Yeah. And I think the fans of Philly push that to the front office gets scared of the fans. It's the only city or the only franchise where that front office makes preemptive moves because they're afraid of the fans.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic.
But the weird thing about that, you're talking about 2 players. You're talking about 2 players.
Though, they got to embrace black culture especially in Philadelphia. If they had really embraced swaggerific, loud divas, it doesn't matter. If you're a diva, they want you out of there.
Antonio Brown is a better receiver than any of the Philadelphia Eagles have had on their roster since Terrell Owens. And they had every opportunity to sign him.
I don't want it to be like some racist shit to be like, we understand that black people are a monolith and that there's all different intellect levels or anything when it comes to football in itself, of like football IQ, and some guys don't have it. Some guys absolutely love football. Some guys just kind of want to be into it.
Yeah, but Carl, some guys have really great football IQ and they can't fucking play. I'll go back to Herm Edwards. You got it. You're drafting these guys to play football.
The swagger thing, I totally know what you mean. And you can say black dudes, you can say whatever, but if you have that swagger, because there's some bad white boys out there, but they have to act a certain way as a football player. You know, like TJ Watt. You don't want a TJ Watt on your team.
Yes.
Because he's a little fucking rat. And he probably gets along with the black dudes.
Yeah.
Because he's got they like authenticity amongst each other. Football players like real football players that are there. And if you can't hang, if you're trash, if you're there, but a franchise that loves your agent, owes them a favor and keeps them there and stuff, there's no cohesiveness because they're like, what is this bum on the team? You know what I mean? Like that shit trickles down. Everybody feels that. And like a front office that has no room for adjustments or any shit like that, when it comes to an actual culture change, a vision of a culture, it's like it has to stop, dude. It has to stop. And they'll talk about, well, they blackball Kaepernick. I was like, dude, they blackball these coaches, bro. Yeah. I don't give a fuck about Kaepernick at this point. Like we said, what's his name?
Bieniemy.
Salah. These guys need to be on the fast track to coaching to and not just be like, oh, I wonder if this guy could get it in 6 years. Like, I wonder if he'll be the next Mike Tomlin. You're like,
Right.
or Belichick. Like,
Right.
fucking.
Well, everybody, and that's the thing. That's the thing that kind of bothers me about the NFL. And you know, to quote Any Given Sunday when he was like, maybe it's not racism, maybe it's placism. Maybe brother needs to know his place. It's kind of like there's a certain type of black coach that has been the apple of organization's eye.
That's why I said it's not Uncle Tom. It's those coaches had to navigate within the space that they're given.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And you're talking about, listen, part of the reason that this issue exists is because you don't have a single black owner in the NFL. And so when you don't have any black ownership, you're not going to really have any cultural changes. Look how many front office jobs. And to be honest, if you ask me, the front office changes are the ones that need to happen the most for franchises to turn it around. Not only do you need these black coaches who are talented, who know the game, know the players, but the guys shopping for the groceries have to be guys that know the players within the last 50 fucking years. Guys that, you know, and it's kind of like the Moneyball thing. You need guys who understand the mentality it takes for a player to put in the work, to be successful, and to produce in this league.
And you have to know and understand these players. Like, I came from a place, like, if you've seen the U documentary, you know how Howard Schnellenberger was. My college coach being Howard Schnellenberger, he had to, when he was at Miami, they drew a line from Orlando down to Miami and called it the state of Miami. And they went and recruit north of I-4 interstate. And it was just Howard knowing, and you call it racism, whatever you want. He's, listen, if we got a whole team full of fucking crackers, we're going to lose. Period. Right. So he's like, where are we going to find the most talented, athletic black kids? Well, coach, in the hood, but do you want to go there? Yeah. So he went door to door on the kids that were talented. He showed up at Michael Irvin's living room, and if you watch the U documentary, they'll go, damn, how did this old white guy earn the respect of these young black kids? And it was because he was willing to go there and understand their lives
and the culture and the culture.
Nick Saban does that. These other coaches are phony and will like sit in a parent's living room and stuff because they heard these stories about Howard or they heard these stories about Nick Saban.
Do you know why I want the offensive lineman from Clemson who cheated his way through college versus the offensive lineman from Stanford whose parents went to Stanford, whose parents work at Tesla? Do you know why I don't want that kid? Because that kid's whole life doesn't depend on football. The kid from Clemson who came out of the shit, whose only path in life is football, that kid's going to show up to play fucking football. That's the difference. And I think for too long, teams and organizations like Philadelphia have valued kids who come from good families, who come from good backgrounds, who don't look at football as their end-all be-all, and that shows up on the field. That's what you see on the field. Guys who go, if I don't play, I guess I'll go be an accountant or I'll be an agent. I want the guys who go, if I don't play football, I'll have to kill myself because this is all I know how to do. That's the kid I want on my team.
It's in order to make these cultures change, and I'll piggyback on that shit that you said a little bit ago. Black ownership has to happen. And how does black ownership happen, right? The right people have to be approached in there. Are you saying there's no black billionaires in America? That's not true.
No, of course not. Of course not.
It's that the league hasn't approached them.
And doesn't look at these franchises. You know, one of the things that I loved in sports.
And hold on, too. Derek Jeter's not a billionaire. But he met with a bunch of other people, formed a group, and they bought the Marlins.
Right.
P. Diddy can do that.
Yeah.
Oprah could do that.
P. Diddy was trying to do that.
There are so
with
many
the Panthers.
powerful, rich people, former athletes with mega money, more money than Derek Jeter. Right?
Wasn't Michael Jordan trying to be in that group with P. Diddy to buy the Panthers?
But that's what I'm saying. This is an NFL problem.
Yes.
NFL tries to correct their PR mistakes instead of being in front of them.
And being genuinely progressive and
And that's
creating
what
a
we talk
league
about.
reflects the on-the-field product.
And your product has been 90% African Americans right there, and you have 0 black owners, as of now, no black GMs, and a handful of black coaches, head coaches. Yes, there's black assistants, but for years they make them tread through the thing. And like, well, they make white coaches, tread for years and years in the system. They're like, yeah, and then nepotism gets them a job.
Right.
The
Well,
same
I mean,
thing that gets it, and I don't mean like direct like bloodline nepotism, but they're friends. That's why they call it a fraternity of coaches. Pay your dues, because they want the ones who hang around long enough and pay their dues as coaches. But the NBA is super progressive in the sense that these guys can coach for a year and they give them a head coaching job. They're going to be assistant for a year. Why? Because they're former players and they know the game.
And they know the players. And they
Jason
can relate to the players.
Steve Nash is the coach of the Nets now.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Steve Nash was playing yesterday.
So for the NFL to be so hesitant, that's saying, and it really seems like, this is what it seems like to me. The NFL is just preserving a job for old white guys still, because otherwise they would have no jobs.
In football,
and they would,
right.
In football.
Well, here's a crazy idea.
Or you have to,
you can be a white guy like me who sees it and does something about it. Who sees it and says, my fucking Peckerwood Doug Peterson coach is not relating to these players, is not firing them up, is not developing talent. Now, missing on having one Pro Bowler in the last 50 draft picks of the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you know who that is, by the way? Carson Wentz. One Pro Bowler in your last 50 draft picks doesn't just mean that your GM sucks. It means that your coaches can't develop talent either. So, and a lot of that is because they make these guys play special teams until they're 27. They get no game experience, and they're playing behind aging veterans on long contracts. And by the time
you guys treat your team like a college, like you have guys that sit for 2 years. It's weird. And they play them in their last year of their contract because they're like, ooh, these guys have incentive to play now. Money motivates them. You're like, dude, they would have played their hearts out for you on their rookie contract. You just didn't let them.
Right. Well, here's a great example. Kayvon Wallace was one of the best safeties, I think, in the draft, and the only reason he didn't get taken in the first round was because he was like 5th on the depth chart of safeties at Clemson. He was behind Isaiah Simmons. He was behind Tanner Muse. He was behind all these other guys. But on any other team in the NCAA last year, Kayvon Wallace is a first-team All-American starting safety. And he's been on the Philadelphia Eagles, has won 2 college championships, and you have a culture problem, and that kid's on the bench. You have a will-to-win problem, and that kid who just won 2 championships in the NCAA is on the bench on your football team. Now, if you don't think that you have a psychological problem with the way you evaluate your players, you're completely fucking missing the boat.
And what you just said is true. Because that's why you got confused and said Temple Owl. I did originally go to Temple University in Philly, and my coach in 2006 was Al Golden. And Al Golden was from the Penn State system. And everything was about what Papa Joe did.
Right.
And he also adopted that, I guess, his psychology, maybe his philosophy, but definitely even this psychology. And by psychology, I mean, I remember this incident in my memory that my buddy to this day, my boy, Willie Hardiman from Miami, dreadlocks, right?
Yeah.
Dark skin, Miami, at the time had braces. Right? So Golden is making a point about like guys that are going to get out of here and we're going to send their ass out of here and blah, blah, blah. And it shows your character by how you look and how you act and how you dress. And he was like, I'm tired of guys with dreadlocks and gold teeth thinking they could do whatever they want. Shit. And he named Willie by name, right?
Willie was like, I don't even have gold teeth yet.
He wasn't there. He wasn't
okay.
there. And I literally said, Coach, and this is why like probably coaches hate me if a coach is listening to this, but I always shot my mouth off. And I said, Coach, Willie has braces.
And they're not gold.
And I just wanted, because I thought it was just like that. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Right.
Like, these are our brother. That's our teammate. Like, you're not about to come in here and like, because you didn't recruit him, you're going to talk shit about these type of guys and tell you the type of guys you want in here. He don't want dreadlock, gold teeth. I'm from this clean cut Pennsylvania type of shit.
Yes, and I'll tell you, if Howie Roseman had the balls to draft more guys with dreadlocks and gold teeth, they'd have 2 Super Bowls by now, not one.
And that is some of the point.
Right.
Some of the point is some of these guys come from systems where that philosophy of like, you're using the example of Stanford and good families. I'm using the example of like, they think fucking people playing football in the Poconos is better than Miami and South Florida football, and they're out of their fucking minds.
You're out of
your
mind.
Like they don't understand the speed that's in South Florida or Texas or California. Follow that kid who's like, oh, the kid from Palm Beach, Florida is now playing for the Falcons and he's fast. Who knew? Lamar Jackson's from Boynton Beach. Like these kids, like what they're doing. You got to follow them. How they don't have scouts looking, like every team. How they don't have a scout going, this kid is definitely better than this walk-on, right? Baker Mayfield was a walk-on and he had to earn his place. Great story. From walk-on to Heisman. Should be a movie. It's amazing. To first pick overall. But come on. I could turn on the Louisville versus Syracuse tape and tell you that Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback than this fucking midget.
Without a doubt.
I could show you a play action bomb to a post route that is 10 times better than any throw that Baker's ever made.
If you watched Lamar Jackson in college, and I got to do it at great length because Lamar Jackson's big years in college were when I was filming Ginormous Food. So I was traveling all the time and I would always go back and watch. We'd be wrapped around 3 or 4 p.m. and I would always go back and watch Thursday night college football. And during that time, Louisville was almost every Thursday night game.
They were owning that. They were like, dude, let's put this kid on primetime.
They own that space. And literally watching Lamar Jackson in college was like watching you play Madden with Michael Vick in 2002.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, it's like the level of ability that kid brought to the game, I thought, and the audacity of coaches and GMs to be like, maybe
he'll be a receiver.
Yeah, we don't know if he could play quarterback in the NFL.
So here's the other thing too, and this is how players get overlooked. And you're like, how is this guy a free agent? How is that guy a 4th rounder? What is that? Some of these scouts don't even show up to these fucking small school workouts. So they don't even show up and they just take another scout from another franchise's word for it.
Yeah. And then that scout ends up drafting the fucking dude.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah. And some of them will do it just to throw them off and be like, there was nothing to see.
But,
so like just hide it for themselves. That's very rare. Most of them go, there's nothing to see. It was like, you got to check out this kid from there. We might not need a lineman this year. Might not take one. You guys got to see this kid. They do that shit, right? But they also go, there's nothing to see there. Didn't even go.
Another player that Philadelphia could have absolutely used that they took JJ Arcega-Whiteside in front of. DK Metcalf is the one that everybody talks about because he's a receiver and he's a much better player than JJ Arcega-Whiteside. But do you know who else was
receivers that went in that draft though?
In the first round or second round?
Mm-hmm.
There's one player I'm talking about who you're intimately familiar with who was drafted about 10 spots behind JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and it's Devin Singletary. And you're telling me that any fucking general manager on the planet had a better grade on Arcega-Whiteside than Devin Singletary? You're not watching the same fucking football games.
Dude, Devin Singletary in college, and you put on, I still don't know who Whiteside even is. If you put on Devin Singletary's tape in college, you'll go, Wow. How do I have that? How can I get that guy on my team? You look at the Eagles' backfield right now, and you go, "Oh, is Devin Singletary better than Boston Scott?" Yes.
Yes.
Is he better than Sanders?
By far.
Probably yes.
Yeah. If anything, he's as good as Miles Sanders. And arguably, you could say
certainly
he's
hasn't
better.
been there in Buffalo this season, which I don't know what's going on.
Well, they stopped running the football. I mean, it's that simple. You got Josh Allen and you got Stephon Diggs playing the way they're playing right now. Why are you going to run the football?
Did you think Josh Allen was going to have it when he came out?
Yeah, I did. I think Josh Allen is as good or as Carson Wentz and with a bigger arm.
What
and
school?
I think
Wyoming.
Yeah.
He was Wyoming.
Yeah,
now, Carson Wentz was D2 though, right?
Yes, but I watched Carson Wentz versus Jared Goff.
D2? He was 1AA.
Yeah, he played North Dakota State,
which is
NDSU.
That's
Division
FBS.
2. Yes.
No, it's Division 2 or 1AA.
It's Division. No, it's Division 2.
Oh shit! Why did I think he played 1AA ball?
No, and they were Division 2 national champions like 2 years in a row with Carson Wentz. So, and by the way, again, going back, Carson Wentz is not the problem here. The problem is you go out and you're drafting guys like Andre Dillard over Titus Howard. You draft guys like Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf and Devin Singletary. And it doesn't stop there. I mean, you could go back and look. You know, they took Dallas Goedert, who's a pretty good tight end, after they traded out so that the Ravens could take Lamar Jackson at the end of the draft.
Don't they still have Zach Ertz?
Yeah, they still have Zach Ertz. So you drafted Dallas Goedert when you still had Zach Ertz.
Now, Zach Ertz was supposed to have almost like Kelsey-like numbers. What happened to him? Did he die? Where did he fall out? Like, what happened?
He's been injured. He's been out for the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's been injured. But you know who else was taken behind Dallas Goedert? Jay Shark. So there's another wide receiver balling the fuck out, LSU, that you could have taken, that you didn't have the right grade on, and that dude's a Pro Bowler. You need offensive lineman. Orlando Brown went in the 3rd round to the Ravens from Oklahoma. Mark
what
Andrews.
What class is this? What year is this?
This is 2 years ago, 2018.
This is 2018, right?
2018 draft, the year Lamar Jackson came out. Mark Andrews, the tight end that the Ravens drafted in the 3rd round that year, better and more productive than Dallas Goedert.
Do you remember when they got Lamar and that tight end? Like, Lamar was so happy he got the tight end. He was like, "Oh, we gonna score a touchdown!" Like, he was so. You can look at that and they go. Everybody knew. Eventually, it was like, "Yeah, that Flacco guy is done there." That guy.
But how do the Ravens hit on 3 Pro Bowlers? 3 Pro Bowlers in one draft, and the Eagles hit on 0. They literally, their first 3 picks that year were Pro Bowlers.
What's the phrase that you hate? Draft's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
It's not, though.
It isn't a crapshoot. And it isn't a crapshoot when I can go back.
Do their job, it's a crapshoot.
I mean, look at this.
What the fuck they're talking about, and they're out of touch. It's a crapshoot.
And I understand when you're in the top 5 and you have a position of need, or in the top 10 and you have position of need, and the need makes you take a player over the best player.
Who did Washington draft
this year?
This past draft.
They took the best player, Chase Young. Look
what they're doing right now.
I know, and they took Montez Sweat last year, and everybody said you can't take 2 defensive ends back to back. You have Ryan Kerrigan, who's 1,000 years old.
Why? It's a passing league, stupid bitch.
Right, and by the way, one injury. You want to be one injury away from not having a pass rush.
Every team talks about, well, they need to get a pass rusher, and you always need to get a pass rusher. Like, you can't take 2 back to back. Why? Because we want to be good. The fuck out of here.
Yeah, and my buddy Joel in the chat saying, "But what about Justin Jefferson?" Yeah, Justin Jefferson was a lock, as close to a lock as you could have got for a wide receiver in the draft this year. And the Eagles still took Jalen Reagor, who, by the way, has been banged up and horrible quarterback. But why are you picking guys on potential versus production in the 1st round of the NFL draft? You make those kinds of decisions in the 6th round, not in the 1st round. You don't go, well, Jalen Reagor might be a better receiver if he had any quarterback play at
What's
TCU.
your first
Well, you don't take that
contract?
guy in the first pick.
What's your first contract in the NFL for? What you did in college. Your second contract is for what you did in the league. What your first contract, what those guys are getting paid for, that's why it was so easy for the NFLPA and the owners to agree to a rookie salary cap, because everyone agreed under the same premise. Like, yeah, you're getting paid for what you did in college. What you do within the 3.3 years. When I went to, it was Jeff Ireland was the GM when I was at the Dolphins, and they bring you in, and Jeff Ireland says, do you know what the average life of an NFL player is? 3.3 years. And I was like, he's like, because in that third, right, in 3.3 years is when we have to decide if we're going to pay you or not.
Right.
And he was like, so we have that amount of time to literally evaluate a player. So with these rookie salary caps on there, anything, if they're not the top player in all of college football, because the top 1% makes the NFL, if they're not the best of the best, why are you wasting a first round pick on it? Teams are tanking to get the first pick, and you're going to waste it on a fucking player that you might not use for 3 seasons.
Yeah, or that you player think that you might have potential.
Like, if you first round on a quarterback, that motherfucker plays game 1.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand. Like, if you draft him in the second round, third round, cool. First, there's 30 teams, 32 teams. There's only that many picks.
Now, and you said you like Derek Barnett for the Eagles, right? But I just want to point out to you how many Pro Bowlers have been drafted behind Derek Barnett, and I want to shoot you some names.
Hold on. What pick was he, though?
14th.
In the first round.
First round pick, 14th overall. And
I don't think
Derek Barnett broke. Derek Barnett.
You had 3 first round picks that draft? Or
no,
2?
No, they had
Eagles had 2.
1. No, they had 1, and this is 2017 now, and they had 1 first round pick in that draft.
So you think it's not panning out?
Well, hold on a second. Derek Barnett broke Reggie White's sack record, all-time sack record at Tennessee. So you can't say Derek Barnett wasn't a productive college player. And Derek
what did
Barnett,
they say? You draft them. If they're not the best in the best, you can't draft them. So they drafted a guy with that production. Now, 2 weeks ago, here's a guy I saw on a 3rd down, on a 4th down. He made back-to-back stops last time I saw him play.
Yes, and quite frankly, Derek Barnett is probably one of the better players they've drafted. But I'll just play devil's advocate on the fact that they don't draft well, and I'll tell you all the Pro Bowlers that were taken.
Teddy Bridgewater. I like Teddy Bridgewater.
I do too. Hold on, here we go. So here are the Pro Bowlers taken after Derek Barnett: Marlon Humphrey, Alabama cornerback. Guess who drafted him? The Ravens. Tre'Davious White, Buffalo Bills cornerback, generational talent. TJ Watt from the Pittsburgh Steelers, edge rusher.
Those were taken after Barnett.
After Barnett. Ryan Ramczyk, right tackle, New Orleans
Saints. You had a corner at the time,
though. Pro Bowl player. Who, the Eagles?
In 2017?
Who were their corners in 2017?
Oh, you tell me, Jack. I'm a Jet fan.
Yeah, they didn't have corners in 2017. Before Darius Slay, the Philadelphia Eagles haven't had good cornerbacks since Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown in 2006. What draft was Darius Slay? Darius Slay wasn't drafted by the Eagles. Darius Slay was drafted by the Lions and traded to the Eagles this year.
What draft? I know I'm saying, what draft was Darius Slay? What class?
Oh, I don't know. I'll look it up. But it's, I think, 16 or 15. Let me finish this thought. Budda Baker, safety, Arizona Cardinals. The Eagles don't have a good safety in their entire defensive backfield. Dalvin Cook. Dare I say, Dalvin Cook. Okay, hold 14? On.
You got to take Dalvin Cook at 14, though.
Yeah, and at the time, you didn't have a running back either. You didn't have a running back in 2017. He was like the
last Florida State player that was good.
Dalvin Cook went in the 2nd round, 41st overall to the Vikings.
Because he was hurt. Because he got hurt.
But also because he had dreadlocks and gold teeth. All right? Let's not forget. Pittsburgh Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster, 2nd round, 62nd overall. Another guy with dreadlocks and gold teeth. I didn't bring this up out of my ass. Alvin Kamara, 3rd round, 67th overall. How'd you miss him, Howie? How'd you miss him? Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Penn State. That guy went to college in your fucking backyard. You missed on him. You missed on Kareem Hunt, 3rd round, 86 overall.
Because why?
Dreadlocks and gold teeth. Shaquille Griffin, Seattle Seahawks, 90th overall, Pro Bowl cornerback, dreadlocks and gold teeth. In case you didn't want,
have gold teeth because they have dreadlocks.
Yeah, well, dreadlocks and or gold teeth. And even if you didn't want dreadlocks and gold teeth, Kenny Golladay, 3rd round, 96 overall, Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Lions. The list goes on. Eddie Jackson, the safety out of Alabama, Chicago Bears.
Here's what I realized. Here's what I realized about that Barnett pick. He's gonna be the Fletcher Cox, the Brandon Ingram of that. You found a guy that you're
Brandon
gonna
Graham.
have.
He's
Brandon
a guy
Graham.
who 6 years in will be a solid. He'll be Brandon Graham.
Yeah, but I'm saying you'll have that guy for that many years. Like how long Graham's been there and all this. That's what you guys do. You get a D lineman that you're gonna like. Oh, he'll be a 12-year guy. That's
But what position is the easiest to hit on in evaluating NFL draft talent?
Defensive line.
Right. How many defensive line busts are there compared to quarterback busts, wide receiver busts, running back busts? You can't fake production as a defensive lineman in the SEC. You just can't, because you're playing against Big Ten, SEC offensive linemen, and those guys are all going to be in the NFL. So that's the easy. You and I could evaluate defensive line talent. Did that guy get through? Yeah. How many times did he get through? 200. What's the most? 196 behind him? Cool. The guy with 200 is going to be a good NFL player. It's that simple. Unless the guy goes crazy and starts beating his wife and then joins the UFC. I'm not talking about anybody specific. Might have gone by the Kraken. Unless that happens, NFL linemen or defensive linemen are pretty easy to evaluate. But there are those guys who sneak in as well, who are who was the one, Dwight Freeney's, undersized, right, but productive, and a guy
Temple.
that they didn't think was going to amount to anything in the NFL, went on to be a Hall of Famer.
That boy's 5'11".
Well, he was listed at 6'1", but he probably was under 6 feet tall.
Dwight Freeney was 5'11".
We'll go back one more draft in 2016, the year that they drafted Carson Wentz. Now, I understand you unload your draft to get a franchise quarterback. Makes sense. But let's look at all of the other players that were drafted behind their other picks that are Pro Bowl players. They didn't have a pick in the 2nd. They had a pick in the 3rd round. They took Isaac Seumalo, center guard from Oregon State. 2 picks behind that was Austin Hooper. Then you also had Joe Schobert, Pro Bowl middle linebacker, taken in the 4th round that year. Dak Prescott taken in the 4th round that year. You could have pulled the Redskins and got yourself some quarterback insurance in case your Division II guy couldn't have played. Matt Judon, Baltimore Ravens, Pro Bowl pass rusher. Jordan Howard, Pro Bowl running back from the Bears. You could have got him before all of his fucking tread was worn off, and you traded for him. And then the one that I absolutely love, with the 164th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles take Halapulati Vaitai, offensive tackle from TCU. They love Texas Christian University, right?
Love it. Great place.
Great place, Texas Christian, right? And the pick right behind that, from the Gulf South Conference, West Alabama, a little kid by the name of Tyreek Hill. So you took a lineman you didn't even re-sign after his rookie deal was up, one spot in front of maybe the fastest receiver ever to play the game. And you didn't like him because he had dreadlocks and gold teeth, right? I rest my case. The defense rests. Or maybe in this case, I'm the prosecution. But maybe the Philadelphia Eagles should really start to like players with dreadlocks and gold teeth if they want to win some fucking football games. And or. Listen,
because
that's going to be on my list.
Have the best gold. And listen, about the Jets.
Yeah, let's get into your team.
I'm going to tell you something crazy. The Jets will, at this point, like I said, I thought that we would win. Now I think we'll go 0-16. The Jets will go 0-16 and not draft Trevor Lawrence with the first pick.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree
I
that
literally see that.
Yeah. And they won't take Trevor Lawrence, and they probably won't pick first overall either. They'll trade out.
I think we'll get picked. I think we'll get to be able to pick first and still not pick Trevor Lawrence.
So who's the pick? If you're the Jets general manager and you believe Sam Darnold is your quarterback, which I can listen,
which I cannot believe.
Well, when you compare him to Trevor Lawrence, it's not even close. But let's just
anybody sucks.
Well, the fact that you took him over Lamar Jackson says everything to know.
You know how I feel about that. Guy was the best quarterback in the draft, better than Baker.
But let's say you don't take him. Who's the pick? Who do you take?
The Jets will take the safest bet they can and draft a defensive lineman to play right next to Quinnen Williams.
So you think the pick is somebody like Rousseau from Miami, or what's another defensive end? I mean, it's really not a good draft for defensive linemen and edge rushers. I mean, in the top 30 big board, you got a tackle from Alabama. Linebacker? The guy I think you're thinking of is probably Micah Parsons from Penn State, who's more of a traditional 4-3 inside backer.
Not coming out?
No, he's coming out.
But he's not coming out?
No, he is coming out.
See, here's the thing. They'll get the first pick. I think I'm with you. They'll get the first pick and probably trade out to 3.
Yeah. Somebody will trade up. Somebody who's a quarterback.
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
This is for Trevor Lawrence. Atlanta will trade up for Trevor Lawrence and they'll hire Dabo Sweeney as the coach.
You think so? That's interesting. I don't think Dabo Sweeney will be the head coach. And this brings us to the closing topic I wanted to talk about, which was coaching vacancies. Because I believe that 90%, if not all of the coaching vacancies and GM vacancies will be filled by African-American candidates. And
the only
rightfully
one I'm
so
saying,
when you look at the one.
The only one I'm saying not is Atlanta, because Dabo Sweeney has that base. The Clemson fans in that area, like the ACC fan, they would support it. Easy transition for the quarterback too. He's familiar. They have a relationship. They can lean on each other because a coach is attached to his quarterback anyway. A new head coach is attached to their franchise quarterback, period. Right. So if Dabo is attached to Trevor and they come in, they'll come in together and be like, it won't have to be like a Belichick Brady thing.
So where does Matt Ryan go?
He can come to New York because that's what they're gonna do. Trade some type of shit, get a backup. To me, he's trash. He is
Matt
trash.
Ryan?
Matt Ryan is garbage to me.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan will end up. Matt Ryan will end up somewhere. Yeah.
Where? Dallas?
Yeah, there'll be a team like Dallas. There'll be a team like. Well, I'll tell you what.
Where does that go? Where does that go?
I think if I'm Dak Prescott, where I want to go is Indianapolis.
Washington?
No, if I'm Dak Prescott, maybe he wants to go to Washington. But if I'm Dak Prescott, I probably want to go to Indianapolis. I want to go where I know I have a good offensive coach. I have a great offensive line.
I'm a goddamn quarterback that broke my leg, and I'm talking the bone broke. I'm never playing for Washington.
No, exactly. That's what they do.
That is quarterback break your leg team.
Yeah. How do you want to go? How do you decide you want to go play for the team that ruined RG3's career? How do you want to go play for them?
Joe Theismann.
Yeah, Joe Theismann. Yeah, I forgot about Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann shattered. RG3 shattered.
And Alex Smith.
Yeah, that thing almost got cut off.
That's 3 quarterbacks just that I can see in my brain.
They take more legs than Brazilian jiu-jitsu, man.
Bro, I'm saying, who
Which
would take a
which
quarterback right now?
which makes you think, why don't they just change the name to the Washington Paraplegics? Because that is what they're in the business of creating.
I'll throw something out there. I know y'all got Jalen Hurts and everybody talking about backup and high profile backups that they had. And remember Jimmy Garoppolo in New England? And then he went to San Fran. He's been hurt a lot. Don't they kind of need a quarterback?
San Francisco?
Can you see Matt Ryan in San Francisco?
Maybe. I mean, he had all that success with Shanahan in Atlanta. You know, maybe he ends up there. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of those kind of moves. I don't think Carson Wentz is leaving Philadelphia.
He can't.
And I'll tell you what.
Not for $59 million.
And as much as I think Jalen Hurts is a starting caliber quarterback, and I think he'll be a great starter in this league. If you want Carson Wentz to get right, you got to trade Jalen Hurts out of the building. The first thing a new general manager has to do is come in and get something for Jalen Hurts and get him out of the fucking building and bring in somebody like a Nick Foles, like one of these veterans who's going to get cut loose.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan. You bring in a veteran who's not going to take his job, but who can play and win games if he gets hurt. You cannot bring in Josh Rosen. You can't bring in another one of these young quarterbacks that is going to ever be cause for contention.
No, who is a guy who is a bona fide certified backup in that regard? There's not
a guy like Chase Daniel is a backup quarterback like that. You know, there's another Ryan Fitzpatrick. Walt said it. Ryan Fitzpatrick is that guy.
Yeah, Fitzy in Philly, baby.
Yeah, well, it's the only team he hasn't played for yet.
Fitzpatrick with a PH, baby.
Yeah,
I like to see that.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
And Fitzpatrick, I think, is the right kind of guy to bring in for a dude like Carson Wentz because he's a journeyman, and he's dealt with the controversy. He's been benched for young quarterbacks, so
they're not getting rid of Howie Roseman, right?
Well, they have to. They have to get rid of Howie Roseman. You got to get rid of Howie Roseman. You got to get rid of.
So, assuming Howie Roseman still has a job next year,
there's no way. There's no way.
Okay, assuming he still has a job next year. What's the good thing about Fitzpatrick?
He's Jewish?
No, for Howie Roseman's eyes.
Oh, that he went to Harvard. Right.
That's a real world possibility, Joel.
Yeah. I do think that's the kind of guy, if you're going to go get a veteran backup for a guy like Carson Wentz, you go get a Ryan Fitzpatrick. You get somebody like that who's never keep in mind, Flacco would be another good one. Keep in mind, that's exactly what Andy Reid did when he drafted Donovan McNabb. He went and got Doug Peterson and was like, listen, this motherfucker never stealing your job, okay? We'll let Doug Peterson start 7 games so that we can draft you a left tackle in the next year's draft, and then it's your team, right? So I don't even know if Doug Peterson started 5 games that first year that Donovan was drafted.
Thomas or some shit?
No, Trey Thomas was the last Ray Rhodes pick. I couldn't tell you who was the
Runyon.
No, they traded for John Runyon. John Runyon was a Tennessee Titan. Donovan McNabb was in the 99 NFL draft. I think in the 2000 NFL draft, the Eagles took Corey Simon in the first round, who was a defensive lineman.
So coaching changes.
Yeah, I think the coaching. Yeah, let's talk coaching changes, and we'll get the fuck out of here for the first.
What jobs?
We already know it. We already know Atlanta. We already know Detroit. Those 2 have been fired.
And
already.
Adam Gase is gone. They're just waiting to.
Adam Gase is gone, and we know that Spectacles in fucking Jacksonville is out.
And then probably L.A. Chargers.
Yeah, probably Anthony Lynn. Very possible. 5. Yeah. I'll tell you what. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'll start with my team. I'll go first, and then you can do the Jets.
I think Nagy's safe in Chicago.
Yeah, I think Nagy is safe. I don't think Nagy's going anywhere. but I think I'm going to go with.
So I said
I
Buffalo.
think if Howie Roseman doesn't get kicked out of Philadelphia,
He
I
won't.
think what you will see is if they will either promote Deuce Staley to head coach because he's been there through Chip Kelly from Andy Reid all those years. I think they could promote Deuce Staley to head coach, and they could go out and get a very veteran defensive coordinator
Are
guy
you
like
running this campaign? Is this an
for
online campaign that
for
you
Deuce
started?
Staley. For Deuce
Yeah,
Staley. Well, Deuce
yeah.
Staley was one of my favorite players. Joel can attest to the fact that I have like Deuce Staley jerseys in every color. And a Deuce was a tough player, man. He was a tough player, and he knows what like part of those win teams in Philadelphia. So if you're gonna try to say, look, let's not blow the whole thing up, I think you make a guy like Deuce Staley the head coach. And I said they should have fired Peterson last week and seen what Deuce had for the rest of the season. Give him an opportunity, see what he can coach for the rest of the year, and then you decide. But at the very least, if they bring in a defensive-minded head coach like a Todd Bowles, who coached in Philadelphia
Because
before.
Raheem Morris is getting another shot right now.
Oh, Raheem Morris is definitely going to be a head coach somewhere, without a doubt.
He was my coach. He was the coach when I was in Tampa Bay, and I remember him going, this is just like right before the team practice. It was so fucking hot that day. And his only like motivation for that day for the team and the team meeting was just, today, man, it's gonna be hot. All right? It's gonna be hot as shit. It's gonna be hot as fuck. It's gonna be hot as fucking shit. Hydrate.
that was Raheem Morris's pep talk to the team.
That was the whole speech. Hydrate. All right, let's go. It's gonna be hot as fuck. It's gonna be hot as shit. It's gonna be hot as fucking shit. Hydrate.
Raheem Morris will probably get another shot. I think if we go down the list, I think Philadelphia, if Howie Roseman isn't gone, it could be somebody like Deuce Staley. It could be somebody like Todd Bowles, who coached there before.
But that whole staff gets cleared out.
You have to. I think you have to clean house entirely. I think you have to bring in.
What do you have on a team like Detroit has a decent defense, right?
Right.
Patricia kind of was like, all right, I can kind of this. Oh, no, it's a little overwhelming. He was still kind of being a coordinator. They have a decent defense.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in the head coach should be on the opposite, like whatever that team is strength is, the head coach should be the opposite of that, right?
Right.
So a team who has great defense, you should have an offensive coach. If you have a team with a great franchise quarterback, hire a defensive coordinator.
Right.
Because let them sort of like do their thing. Don't fix what ain't broke, and install your culture, what you're good at, the things that you can, you know what I mean? So
well, look at the perfect example.
In that Detroit team, that's where Deuce Staley should get hired.
Maybe. Or an Eric Bieniemy.
An Eric Bieniemy. The guys who are strong on offense go to the team like Detroit who have that defensive skeleton and then implement everything else. It'll be an easier turnaround than, let's say, Deuce Staley taking over the Eagles. That's what I'm saying. Like, they clear house. So none of those assistants are going to be there, if Peterson's gone. So it's not like
I don't think they can be. And I think you got to go with a whole new. It's got to be what they did. And it just wasn't. Kelly wasn't the guy. Then that's fine. But the other black coach that we haven't talked about. So we know for sure. We think that this is Eric Bieniemy's year. Salah's the other one I'd pencil in as a guaranteed head coach. He'll get a shot. The other guy that nobody's talking about that could be one of these college guys to come in and completely run a program is David Shaw from Stanford, who, is to me, I think a better general manager candidate, is a guy that I'd rather see move into a front office role and hire his own coaches. But, that's somebody that's out there that I think is a huge potential guy. The other one that I think a lot of people thought didn't get a fair shake as a head coach is Leslie Frazier. I think Leslie Frazier is probably going to get a shot to come back
That's a name
as a
I
head
haven't
coach.
heard in a minute.
Well, Leslie Frazier has built that defense up in Buffalo under Sean McDermott. So I think you
But
very easily could
Leslie-
see a guy like Leslie Frazier come into the
Well,
fold
Leslie in
somewhere.
Minnesota wasn't. It was kind of a. He wanted to be more of a coordinator sort of thing. Like some guys can head coach and some guys can't.
That's true. Well, Brad Childress is a good example of a guy who can't head coach, was a great coordinator, couldn't head coach.
Yeah, both in Minnesota.
I think Doug Peterson is another
Poor
one.
Vikings had to find out with both of them.
Yep.
Romeo
back
Crennel.
to back. Romeo Crennel, terrible head coach.
Romeo Crennel.
Though he was the only coach to get the Browns to a 10-win season. With Brady Quinn and Derek Anderson as his quarterbacks, by the way.
All right, so I gave you my Atlanta theory. What's yours?
Brian Dable. I think Raheem Morris has a very good shot to keep that Atlanta job by being a dude in the building. But if
they go somewhere else. I think Raheem gets a job like Detroit.
Maybe he gets a job like Detroit.
I think that's a job. Like again, if I'm a defensive guy, I don't want a Detroit job. If I'm a defensive guy, I want a team like Atlanta.
If I'm Atlanta, I throw the Brinks truck at Eric Bieniemy. I think Eric Bieniemy is the guy. You've got Todd Gurley there. You've got Ito Smith there.
You got Russell Gage. You got Russell Gage in the slot with Julio and Calvin Ridley.
Yes, you have all the offensive weapons. You just need somebody who knows how to scheme. Eric Bieniemy obviously knows how to fucking scheme, and so I think that's. And I think in Atlanta you need a black coach. I just think you need a black coach in Atlanta, and
so you don't think if Trevor Lawrence, all them Alabama guys.
I don't think Atlanta gets in anywhere near that pick. I don't think they have the assets.
Told you, the Jets. Never underestimate the Jets.
I don't think Atlanta has the assets. Again, whoever listen, you could see somebody pull. This could be the year that a team pulls a Mike Ditka and trades their whole draft to move up, take Trevor Lawrence. And to me,
why not?
I think Trevor Lawrence is the closest to a guaranteed thing that we've had at quarterback since Peyton Manning.
He is a movie. Sunshine. That shit is like, how Sunshine was created for that. And you're like, that doesn't exist. Some long-haired hippie white boy quarterback playing in the South who's a good Christian that also can throw the ball in the money, but also runs fast and he's 6'6". Yeah, it sounds like some Captain America created bullshit.
Yes, and I know what you're thinking, Jets fans. I know you're saying, I don't know if we want a quarterback who looks like he's mid-gender transition, and I understand your pushback, and I agree with you. But he's probably the closest thing to a guaranteed thing that you could have a quarterback since Peyton Manning.
Since Peyton.
So, and now that we're at the Jets, I mean, what are the Jets going to do coaching-wise, general manager-wise? Does Joe Douglas get more time? How do they figure this out?
The fuck out of here.
I think Joe Douglas has to go because he let Jamal Adams walk out of that building.
For free.
Yeah, for nothing.
Fucking a fourth rounder or some god.
No, they got a one. No, they got a 1 and 2 2s, I think, for him.
Add them together. What are they going to be? We didn't get a 1 for him.
I think he did.
I don't think we got a 1. I think we got 2 2s and a 7th.
Jamal Adams. You acting like you're not in front of a computer right now. 2 first-round picks.
Did we?
Yeah. You got 2 first-round
picks. They're not in this draft, though.
No, I think it was 1 this year and 1 next year, something like that.
So the Jets, this is what I'm telling you. The Jets will rather have picks 3 and whatever in the first round than having 1 overall. They can't stand the pressure.
Yeah. Maybe. But here's the question. What's his name didn't pick? Joe Douglas didn't pick Adam Gase as his head coach.
Who cares? the fucking deal. Let me see the Jamal Adams shit. Can I pull up a tab without changing this?
Oh, you want me to? Yeah, you can pull up a tab. It's not going to affect this at all.
You can still see me?
Yeah, I can still see you. I'm not doing anything.
Okay. Two first-round picks. Jets.
You know, and if we're going to deviate from colored coaches for a minute, one guy that has ties to Joe Douglas that is probably deserving of a head coaching job, who could come over from the Ravens, where Joe Douglas was a scout for many, many years, is Greg Roman. You could see a guy like Greg Roman come over as a potential coach for the Jets.
The offensive coordinator, Greg Roman?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you really not? Do you
late
really...
around the 20th position is around the late.
Yeah,
pick.
because it's Seattle and they're going to win their division and probably a playoff game.
Well, let's not count the Rams out.
Yeah. So, but the point is yeah, you got two number ones for Jamal Adams. You got a haul for Jamal Adams, but the reality is, yeah, you're not going to replace Jamal. He was the captain of your defense. So, you know, it's yes, they've absolutely mismanaged the whole situation with their roster. They fucked up royally by not taking Lamar Jackson, without a question. You know, there's
they want to take. This is what the Jets rumors. They want to take. This is who they're eyeballing. Creed Humphrey, inside offensive lineman at Oklahoma, right?
He's a center.
They're thinking he could play guard or something, you know. But if he played center, it'd be fine.
I actually didn't hate
Kyle
the Jets.
Pitts, tight end at Florida. Pat Fryermuth, tight end at Penn State. Devontae Smith, Alabama. Rashad Bateman, Minnesota. Why would we target him?
Right.
And why are they saying Justin Fields?
As a potential quarterback, I mean, you have that player. I mean, he might be more mobile than Darnold, but, you know, it's hard to say.
Why even take the chance? Just pick Trevor Lawrence and tell him, hey, New York City.
Yeah. I know, man. I know. Well, if you're going to take a quarterback at all, you take Trevor Lawrence. That's it.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're in the Trevor Lawrence business, then you just tank and you take him. Play James Morgan at quarterback for the rest of the year. Sit Darnold, let his tush get nice and toasty, and fucking tank all the way to Trevor Lawrence. It's pretty simple.
We got one more coaching vacancy that you didn't say would get filled.
Jacksonville?
Yeah. What do you think happened?
Well, let's make it about race one last time. I think you have a Middle Eastern owner in Shad Khan, and I think it'd be a perfect fit for Robert Saleh in San Francisco to be the head coach down there in Jacksonville. I think that's most likely a thing. You know, you bring up Jacksonville, there's a pretty damn good guy, good coordinator who I thought was a very good head coaching candidate, who unfortunately took the job at the Jaguars, who was the second choice behind Chip Kelly. And the Eagles actually offered this guy the job when Chip Kelly initially said no.
Oh.
And his name is Gus Bradley. And I thought Gus Bradley was going to be a great head coach. The problem is he ended up taking the Jaguar job, and nobody can be a good head coach. But I will tell you who the next head coach of the Jaguars should be. It should be Byron Leftwich. But unfortunately, they're not going to be fucking smart enough to do that.
He's still got a fan base there, too.
And Byron Leftwich has done wonderful things with quarterbacks in both Tampa Bay and Arizona under Bruce Arians. You want a good young black head coach who can talk to the players today, who isn't that far removed from the game, and has proven that he has some offensive scheme capabilities. He's also just spent a year. He's also just spent a year.
Rules.
And he's
Remember
also
when
just
remember when him and Tom Brady were caught like cheating early, tampering because he went to his house and he was like, "Oh, I just walked into my neighbor that was Byron
yeah,
Leftwich's house."
yeah,
Yeah, he was there for the playbook, cuz
yeah,
like stop the facts. Byron Leftwich trying to win.
right,
like
right.
but
And so, yeah, who should their coach or who should their head coach be? Byron
that's a
Leftwich.
good take.
Go young,
You
go
might need to
black,
start. You mean to
go
like put that in the
franchise.
Twitterverse? Like, just start putting Byron Leftwich as the next Jacksonville coach. That shit might help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Byron Leftwich as the Jaguars head coach makes sense. He's young. You can develop the franchise around him. You need a guy who can develop a quarterback. And then the question becomes, who is the quarterback of the future in Jacksonville? I think that's a great team to go out and get somebody like a Jalen Hurts without trading your first round pick necessarily to get a quarterback who can play. Or you trade an asset that the Philadelphia Eagles need, like Miles Jack, who's not somebody you can afford to pay on his next contract anyway. And you
You
get a
guys,
guy like
now,
Jalen
here's the
Hurts in the
thing.
building.
We talked about this before, and he sort of redeems himself, but it's the fucking winless Jets. You think Derek Carr's in fucking Vegas next year? Or do they sell their whole draft? Do they sell their whole draft and Gruden pull a fucking Ditka to get Trevor Lawrence? Or to
Are you there? Maybe. Maybe they do.
what?
It's hard to say. It's hard to
Because
say.
I can't see Gruden sitting back and not pulling the trigger to make a move because you know it only costs the Raiders $5 million to get rid of Derek Carr next year.
Well, and if he plays really well, you can trade him and get something for him.
And he kind of did. You were like, look at that Hail Mary versus the Jets. You know you want him on your team. Come on, take him off our hands, will you? Knock on wood if you're with me, man.
Well, and the other thing is you look at a team like Dallas, right? Who's going to lose their quarterback because they fucked him on his contract and he got hurt. The exact same thing that the Seahawks did to Earl Thomas. They said, "Look, man, play out your final year."
I guarantee you, if they couldn't trade up to get that, and what's his name says, get Derek Carr out of here, he's not my guy, I guarantee you Gruden would make a move to get Dak Prescott.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Guarantee
I think Dak Prescott very well
and
could.
You know what? Dak Prescott in Vegas, fresh start, looking like a fucking rebel. Oh, fuck you, pay me. That's some Raider shit, bro.
Or is Dak Prescott the guy that a guy like Byron Leftwich selects to turn around a franchise like Jacksonville?
These are good takes, Josh.
So I could very well see, again, if I'm general manager of the Jaguars, my head coach is Byron Leftwich, and I probably go out and I get a guy who's got a chip on his fucking shoulder, and I go, listen, why would you want to make $40 million a year? Why would you want to make? Ignore that.
He's talking about a plane crash.
Ignore that. I'll tell you about it after the show. If I'm general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm telling you right now that the dude I'm going after is Byron Leftwich, and the quarterback I want is Dak Prescott because the dude has a chip on his shoulder.
But not when you're in a position like Jacksonville to get Trevor Lawrence. The Jets are going to fuck it up and either win or trade that pick, dude. I just don't see us getting him. I just don't. I feel like Jacksonville or Atlanta is where that guy's going to be. He's not going to leave the South for some reason. I just don't see it. You know, that guy just works out for certain guys. That's what's going to happen.
I like that's your take. I love that we will end this episode with you. Your hot take is bong rip. It just works out for some dudes. That's what's going to happen. That's it.
Trevor Lawrence is going to work out.
Yeah. You just think, that's going to be fine.
For Dabo Sweeney, I'm going to take a Dabo of concentrates.
Which is legal where you live in Southern California, where we both live. That didn't look as cool on camera as I think you thought it looked. So, what do you think of our first Big Uglies episode here? We're no Pat McAfee show, but neither of us were faggot punters. So, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. Pat McAfee, mad respect. Love your show. You did kick, though, and that's not a sport. So
he punted, so he didn't score points.
No, you didn't even put points on the board.
So
I think he tackled a guy one time, and he won't stop talking about it. Yeah, man, we've all had our sports days, right?
Doesn't he look like the older Paul brother?
He does. McAfee Paul. That's what he looks like.
Pat Paul.
Yeah, Pat Paul. Logan and Jake's older brother, who's gonna whip the shit out of Sylvester Stallone.
And first of all, an older asshole brother is named Patrick, anyways.
Of course. Yeah.
So he's Patrick Paul.
Yeah, he went someplace. He went to Cardinal O'Hara. Your older brother Patrick. He punted for the Colts, and you guys are YouTubers. I don't believe that Pat McAfee is not the oldest Paul brother.
Prove to me that he isn't. Have you guys met his family? I haven't.
You don't know? You don't know where they're from. Where did Pat McAfee go to school?
Fucking Youngstown, or something in jazz.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, right? Midwest. Where are the Paul brothers from? Ohio?
Cleveland, bro. Fucking
Ohio. Pretty fucking close. So, yeah, they might not be, brothers, but they definitely cousins or something.
Dude, I seen him at the Wawa, bro.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are our takes. We're done. We don't have AJ Hawk to pipe in, with his takes or whatever.
We got me to pipe in.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Big Spit, for taking a break from piping down to pipe in for this episode.
Now listen,
where can people find you if they want to follow your takes that aren't sports related?
I'm on that thing that you can see. It's in the corner. See, at Big Spit on all platforms except Twitter. And you can send me some Cash App if you want. It's the same thing because I like money.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear me do voices or impressions and all that stuff, you can see that on Twitch. And Josh Denny.
Yeah, man. That's it. They
know where to find you. They know where to get your big ugly ass.
They can find me even when I don't want them to. How's that? Carl, thank you, man. It's been fun. We'll do this again. We'll just have to keep having stuff to talk about football wise. But yeah, what's over under on black coaches? Close it out. There's be over 4
hires out of the 5 jobs. It'll probably be 2.
You really? I'm gonna go with over 4.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with 4 of the 5 vacancies that we've called are going to be filled by black head coaches.
Will they be the right hires?
Who knows?
Hopefully. Like I said, hopefully one gets fired.
We left out the Texans entirely.
Houston.
Why wouldn't Dabo Sweeney go down there and coach Deshaun Watson? Especially when there's no general manager and he gets to pick his own players.
That fool's got 2 fucking first-round QBs in the league.
No, you think he's going to take Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson?
Oh, I'm just saying that's got to feel good, bro.
Oh, as a coach? Yeah.
Nick Saban don't got any.
Yeah.
He got Jalen Hurts, but that fool went to Oklahoma.
Yeah. And Tua, Tua's in Miami.
Okay, Tua.
But Nick Saban's been in Alabama for, I don't know, a decade.
Century?
Yeah, a century. Yeah. He's the next Joe Paterno. So you've produced one NFL quarterback in 10 seasons with how many national championships?
They got running backs for centuries there, though.
Yeah, and tackles and defensive linemen.
If you want to go every once in a while, and receivers.
Yeah.
They'd be like, hey, this is a new Alabama guy. Every year is like, who's the new Julio? Who's the new?
Pretty safe picks. Listen,
Did Julio
man.
Jones look that big in college?
No.
No, right?
No. He's on
He
the
wore like
exchange.
number 9, had little dreads and shit, right?
Yeah, he probably had
Julio? It was
dreadlocks,
number 9,
dreadlocks
right?
and gold teeth. Yeah, dreadlocks and gold teeth.
Now,
Look, man, how
dude,
many people
he looks like a monster now, dude.
Dude, he looks like a linebacker. Julio Jones is Julio juicing? Yeah. Yeah, dude. Julio Jones is shredded. Julio Jones, do you remember that old picture of the Baylor defensive end? Sean, what was his name? The guy with like a 10-pack abs. The dude who was going to, Sean Oakley. Remember he was going to.
He was a tight end, wasn't
No, he was a defensive lineman.
he?
I think it was Sean. Oh, no, Sean Oakman. Sean Oakman is the guy's name. And that meme was going around of him with his shirt off, just people being like, Jesus Christ. And he ended up like not going into the draft because he was accused of rape. And then later, that was proven to be total bullshit. Yet another black dude's career robbed by some lying bitch, just like Brian, whatever
Banks.
his name was, Brian Banks. But Sean Oakman, 6'8", the dude had not an ounce of body fat on him. He looks like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that guy was robbed of a future. But I bet Matt Rule will hook him up, though. That's a Baylor hookup. Matt Rule's
man.
Hell of a coach.
Yeah, but Julio is definitely looking otherworldly. His muscles have muscles, man. It's scary shit. All right, I'm fading. This has been fun. Thank you guys that tuned in, and we'll do it again soon.